Welcome to Powered by Authenticity. I hope you guys are all having a great start to your week. I am joined today by Kate Lewis. And Kate, I am just so excited about this conversation with you. As we were going through the prep, oh my gosh, just the excitement and the enthusiasm that I felt in our chat was just fantastic. And I just can't wait to dig in a little bit more. So, Kate, welcome to Powered by Authenticity.
Thank you so much, Emily. I'm excited to be here and appreciate the invite and looking forward to sharing about, women supporting women and the power of networking and the importance of authenticity with you. A little bit about myself. So, I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been here about 17 years now with my husband, and I have two kids. But I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. Go Bills, right,
Go
Emily?
Bills!
And I have spent 20 years in sales, recruiting, IT consulting services, and leadership before beginning my entrepreneurial journey in 2021. About 2.5 years ago now, I founded my company, Connections Consulting Partners. Um, and I think entrepreneurship is a great fit for me. It's now become a serial addiction where I have three companies that I am a founder or partner in. And I also have three nonprofit boards that I serve on the board of directors for, which are really just aligned with my belief in the importance of community service and servant leadership and my pursuit of helping others find careers that are aligned with their passions and their values.
Oh, that's amazing. I can't wait to hear a little bit more about those. And I love that spirit and fire from within. That's amazing. Well, as we get started, we usually do a little bit of an icebreaker. So today I was wondering, what's your favorite holiday cookie? Seems like the appropriate time of year to talk about cookies.
It is. It's the most wonderful time of the year, right? Is what I
Yes.
is what I keep telling myself. I'm not the greatest baker, but I love all things gingerbread. So we have a lot of fun doing gingerbread houses and gingerbread men and decorating those with the kids. So I'm gonna go with gingerbread as my favorite flavor of the season.
I love that. I am a good old-fashioned sugar cookie with frosting, but also molasses cookie. There's something about a good
Oh,
old-fashioned molasses cookie.
yes, yes. I
Mhm.
wanna have those cookie exchanges. My mother used to do those where you, like, bake 2 dozen cookies and you bring a bunch of friends and then you trade them off so you get, like, a variety and you don't have to bake all
Yes.
the different kinds. So I'm looking for an invite to a cookie exchange
Well, come
for
on
us.
down, watch the Bills game with me, and we'll
Yes.
do a cookie exchange.
Love it, love it. It's a date.
Awesome, awesome. Well, as we talked about, some of the work that you're doing and that entrepreneurial spirit that you have, share some of the work that you're doing. What are some of the ways that your organizations are really, helping the female population?
Yeah, yeah. We talked about our shared passions of supporting women, specifically women in IT and STEM, where
Yep.
we are underrepresented in that workforce. And so, a lot of my nonprofit work, as well as my businesses, are geared towards IT and then geared towards career coaching and supporting working women and women reentering the workforce. So the nonprofit work that I'm doing, one of them is Carolina Women in Tech. And I helped expand to RTP last year. So they were in Charlotte, in the Charlotte market for about 4 years. And I helped them grow and expand up here to the Raleigh market. And really, that group is focused on networking for women at all levels of their IT career path
Yep.
with a mission to educate, empower, and engage them and provide mentorship opportunities. So that's been really, really fun seeing that grow. Another group I serve with is SIM RTP's women group. SIM RTP is a national IT leaders association. And at the time, women were only 10% of the overall membership. And so I worked with the help of Jenna, and we started a special interest group, creating a separate women's group, and we've been able to grow membership to up to 25% now. And we
That's
meet quarterly.
amazing.
And so it's IT manager, peer networking, and
Love
a
it.
different level of women in their career just trying to get to that next level because we all know how much female leadership representation matters. And then two of my businesses that are female focused. One is Recruit Hers, which is women empowering women to pursue a flexible career as a recruiter. It's my way of helping to support working moms with a way to earn income and have a more flexible work environment. So we've successfully helped some teachers transition into recruiting as a career path, and real estate is also a really good fit. And so I created that online and on demand course a year ago, and that was specifically focused on empowering women in a flexible career.
Mhm.
And then as connections, my main business, I am a recruiting partner, but mainly an ally and advocate for the importance of diversity hiring and inclusive recruiting and corporate culture policies. Really, it's not just about the recruitment, but also the career pathing, the mentorship, the development, and the retention of the employees that you hired to make sure that they stay. And the recruitment's just the first piece, excuse me, of that. And so, yeah, just really focused on helping people feel fulfilled in the careers and work towards better, career life flexibility and integration.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing you mentioned was the mom piece in that, and
Yeah.
I love how you're helping to support women who may need a more flexible work environment. And I think about those transferable skills. There's
Yes.
skills that should be recognized, the time management. I think we were joking earlier about the risk management. So, do you strongly encourage women to help self promote those transferable skills?
Yeah, I think we have transferable skills that we learn on the job, that we learn as leaders, and that we learn as parents. And those are all soft skills and communication skills or organization skills that do transfer into how we show up at work. We talked about project management and time management. Juggling multiple people's schedules is a skill set, right?
Yep.
The patience and the empathy and the active listening skills that you hone in on as a parent or as a leader are transferable skills there as well. And we take on a lot when we have children, right? And so we have to look at ways that those skills impact the work that we're doing. And I think the pandemic changed a lot of people's priorities of what they're looking for in a career, with flexibility being a key component of that. And
Yep.
for myself as well, I mean, I made the decision to go the entrepreneurial route and give up my corporate job because I wanted the flexibility to work remotely from home and be able to take my kids to and from school and not
Yep.
have to have after school care and things, right? So, yeah, I think it's important for women to give ourselves credit for the skills that we developed, whether they were formal education or through work and life experiences, kind of school of hard knocks ways of getting skills.
Yeah, yeah, and I look at it as a lot of times I can teach the tech, but those personal skills, those soft skills, a lot of
Mhm.
times when they come inherent, they're just natural with a person. That's the type of person who I love to hire because I know that they've got the support and they're, the key qualities to be able to lead. We can teach the tech, that we can catch them up on, but those interpersonal and soft skills are just I think they're so critical, but sometimes overlooked.
Absolutely. I fully agree.
Yeah. The other thing you mentioned there, which I'd love to get your perspective on, is the importance of the coaching and mentoring for
Mm.
organizations. I think, a lot of times what I've seen is that organizations say that there is a coaching program and a career path, but they do not want to do an investment in it. So what I mean by that is, the time set aside is more on that personal and time than it is corporate. And what I would love to do is see organizations truly invest in saying 5 hours a month or whatever it may be, go be coached, go find a mentor, spend
Mhm.
time with that. So what are your thoughts about having a higher investment in the actual coaching for organizations?
Yeah, I think, that goes into that retention and career development
Yes,
of
yes.
of a person that's gonna stay with a company if they're given opportunities to continue to enhance their career and their skills. Most people that you want to work ideally want to work for you have a growth mindset and want to be continuous learners. And so providing time or providing access to or reimbursement for training, there's a lot of creative ways that companies can support that, career development and personal and professional development for an individual. And there's so many online courses and online training now. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to miss a day of work to go do that,
Right.
right? But
Yep.
if you don't provide the time for them to do that on top of their job, or if you don't provide them the financial reimbursement for the cost of some of those courses and those trainings, then I guess the risk for the organization is your people that work there aren't going to keep up with the latest technology and the
Yep.
latest trends. And so then you're going to always be looking to hire new people that already have that technology exposure rather than upskilling and giving opportunity to the existing employees that you do have. So I think, a responsible organization should be laying out ways in which they're helping their employees grow and upskill and learn the latest and greatest, whether that be technical skills or management or leadership or methodologies or whatever that may be. It increases the productivity of your team and then hopefully it also results in better employee satisfaction and retention.
Yep. And turnover is expensive. It is so expensive to have employee turnover that, the cost, I feel the investment to, skill and provide those training opportunities um, is
Yeah.
nothing compared to the cost of recruiting, hiring, and a constant churn within your team member. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
also think that if your company's not providing that for you, it's an investment that you need to make in yourself and find opportunities to do that for yourself
Right.
because those skills will go with you to the new organization or opportunity that you have, right? Those skills belong to you and will transfer with you. So making your own time to take the online course, to do the LinkedIn learning, or to join a professional association or a mentorship program to do, a read, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Do Audible or Headway apps and
Yep.
just get exposure through books that way, right? But the investment also on your own front because you're in control of your own person. You're responsible for your own career and your own personal development too.
I love that. So with that, you're right. The personal responsibility to spend time and have opportunities for outreach and connection. I automatically go to networking events and the opportunities there.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on ways and how people can start to network? And to that, what truly do you think is the importance, both personally and professionally, to go into a networking event and be new and go meet other people?
Yeah. Wow. Networking is my jam. And it's sort of my brand, I think, here in town too. But there's a quote, I believe, from Tim Sanders that says, "Your network is your net worth." And I truly, truly believe that. And that is one of the main reasons why I'm able to be an entrepreneur is I have spent the past 15 years networking and more importantly, nurturing long-term mutually beneficial relationships with people so that I can grow my business primarily based on referrals and word of mouth. But networking, I have this like silly quote that networking is like gardening. It takes time to nurture and mature. And so the day that you plant the seed is not the same day that you can harvest the fruits, right? You need to be networking while you are employed before you're in need of something because if you wait until you lose your job, like we've seen so many people
Yep.
unfortunately this year to start networking, then you're kind of racing against the clock in time because you haven't had the time to really build and nurture those relationships to be able to then harvest and ask for the favors and the introductions and the employer referrals and the help when you're in a position of need. And so as busy as we all are with our jobs and our families and all the other responsibilities that we have, I think it's critically important to be an active member of a community and pick a professional association or a special interest group at your company, or a hobby group or a sport or book club or religious group. I mean, even as adults, it's important that we have hobbies and
Yep.
extracurricular activities. But this allows for us to always be meeting new people and learning and growing and have, this curious mindset. And so I think it's important that you develop those hobbies, those passions, and those interests, and that you play a role in a community association or group of some nature.
Yeah. And so when I think about that, I think about, oh, how do I go into an event? I don't know anybody. So what are your thoughts about just that first step? Do you go it
Yeah,
alone? Do you bring a friend? What are your thoughts on when you
yeah,
find something, then what do you do? What are your next
yeah. I think, not everyone's as extroverted as I am and like motivated to make new friends and meet new people. Like I've been accused of never meeting a stranger, but I know networking can be intimidating, right? And like overwhelming and scary. And so start somewhere that you feel comfortable or where you feel like you could have a community.
Mhm.
Some people start with like online forums, or like I mentioned, within your company, maybe there's a special interest group, or within your religious organization, maybe there's, a life group, or within the school, there's a PTA group. But also bring a friend. I love bringing a friend. I think that can become your security blanket. I'm laughing because just last week, um, I filled a table of friends. So there was this event. It was three of my women in STEM groups, right? So the women that I mentioned, the Carolina Women in Tech and Sim Women, and then Women in Bio was hosting, and we kind of brought these three groups together to collaborate. And so there was 100 women in this event for this end of year celebration, just celebrating women in STEM. It was a very empowering and like wonderful event. And I joked, my friends were like, "You think this is your personal holiday party?" That I brought like at least 10 friends there with me to celebrate. And they were all women that have jobs in bio or life sciences or IT and STEM related fields that belonged in the room. I was just encouraging them to get outside of their comfort zone and join me in this group, and I hope some of them become members of the right organization, the one that's
Yep,
a good fit.
that's amazing. Yeah, I remember I joined Women in Tech, the Women in Tech network, and there's a local chapter. And I remember just reaching out for that first time and feeling like so intimidated to walk into the room, not knowing. But it was during pandemic, and it actually worked out
Oh.
that they did an online event, an online Galentine's event. So it was a little bit less intimidating when we went back to in person because I had met people online. I had gotten to know them a little bit.
Mhm.
But that first step in finding, to your point, that right fit and right community, is important. You might not get it right the first time, right? It might take you a few tries to find the right like-minded group of people to walk into the room with.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and also, like, know that you're not alone, and there's probably other women in the same boat as you that are, intimidated and nervous about making new friends, and so, like, look for the woman standing alone that doesn't have a whole group of people that she's talking to, and introduce yourself, because you might, relieve her of her anxiety of being alone and not knowing anyone as well, and so, look for someone that is in need of a friend at those events as well, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah, and I like what you said there too, even about personally finding the right network. I know
mhm.
I like to do 5Ks and some half marathons, and it was fun for me to be able to find the right, like, running group online just to
Yeah,
join to get advice. So I think just as we apply it from a professional perspective, what are your thoughts about applying it personally to help you grow personally?
yeah, absolutely. So, you running clubs is great, right? Book clubs. There's meetup groups,
Yep.
there's LinkedIn groups, there's online forums. Ask your friends or colleagues like what groups that they're a part of. And get some recommendations where you'll know someone that is there. Um, but there's a lot of ways to find, an organization to be a part of. And networking, it doesn't only have to be like, I'm in IT, so I only want to talk to people in
Yep,
IT, because everyone that you meet, even the mom of a kid's friend, they know people and they have
yep,
jobs and they have, spouses and partners and neighbors, and you never know where your next connection that might lead to a next career opportunity will be, and it could be someone that lives in your neighborhood.
yep. Yeah, I agree. It's been interesting to me. I was part of a reduction in force in August of 2021, and it's the opportunities that have come forward for me to be able to start my own consulting firm are all through people who I met along the way. So you never know if it's going to be a friend of a friend, which is how I received one of my most recent contracts. Just what's going to come up that you might be able to get introductions for that can help you in a time where you may need it.
Yeah, and we had a mutual friend introduce us, right?
Yeah,
I think
we
Mark
did.
introduced us. So
Yeah, we did. Thanks, Mark.
the name
Yeah,
of the game.
yes, exactly. I think the other thing I found recently too with some of my more professional organizations, so like the Women in Tech Board, local here to Buffalo, is that we also do a lot within the community. So toy drives, warm coat drives, and I
Mhm.
think from that perspective, it also just it feels good to have a link out to the community where outside of just this networking event, you're helping where you're growing. And I think that's
Yeah.
pretty fun to see too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and that everyone has something of value that they can share. And so even if you were laid off from your job and you are experiencing unemployment and looking for a job, that like you could still serve the community and do
Hmm.
toy drives or fundraisers, or it's a great time to volunteer or get
Yep.
involved in a nonprofit, um, professional or non-professional, right? Like
Yeah.
nonprofit, and give back. And sometimes just that act of putting yourself out there and giving and adding value just pays itself back in how you feel about yourself, and will give you more of that inspiration. But also, I'm a big believer in karma, and
Yes.
and people notice, and doing good and putting good into the world.
Yep, I love that. The other thing I think about, we're going out, we're networking. One thing that I think is important is just staying authentic and being who you are. Um,
Mhm.
what's your perspective on maintaining that authenticity and these no matter where you are, but what are your thoughts on really truly maintaining authenticity in every way as you're expanding your network and growing yourself professionally and personally?
Yeah, I think it's very important, right? And people, want to be seen and heard, and so listening and asking questions and
Yep,
being genuinely interested in the other person's needs and wants, and not just being there for what you need, earns you the right to then be vulnerable and ask for help. But again, you go back to that, like it takes time, just like gardening or dating, right? Like you're not going to kiss someone or take someone home on the first date, right? You got to get to know them and find common interests and build rapport and share, and then maybe meet up for coffee and then learn more, and then maybe be in a position to really ask for what you need. And so I think that you need to give before you can receive, and everyone has something of value that they can share, and everyone's looking for advice and guidance and help, and it's important to remain humble. And I think eventually, after you've given and asked and been genuinely interested in that other person, there's an appropriate time when you can then ask for help, right? But
yep,
give before you receive,
yep.
for sure.
I love that, and I think one thing that, you know, I I know sometimes I struggle with is, am I going to fit into the room? Do I need to adjust who I am just to be able to fit into the room? And I think women face that a lot. You
Mhm.
almost get that imposter syndrome, and you want to just, be who, who somebody else is, just so again, so you can make it more of a connection. What have you seen as far as maybe women who have been able to overcome that imposter syndrome, or that fear of I can't be myself in this room?
Yeah, I mean, imposter syndrome is a real thing, right? And
Yeah.
I think for women more than men, right? Like they say, men will apply to a job that they're 70% qualified for, and women
Yep.
only apply if they're like 90% qualified for it. And I think we're also taught to be more humble and not brag. And so it feels like we give credit to the whole team as an achievement instead of what I did, right? Like you don't
Yep.
talk in the I language and
Yep.
things. Um, so I guess my advice about the imposter syndrome is everyone had to start from somewhere, and and most people aren't where they want to be. They're all trying to improve and be better. And so your journey and your path is unique to you and is different than you, but same with the people that you were going to meet, right? Like I have a little bit of this imposter syndrome when I go to this group of entrepreneurial women, and I'm like, is my business real and big enough compared to these women? Like these women are real CEOs, and I don't like that title. I don't use that title. And so think
Yep.
it exists no matter how successful that you are, and no matter where you are in your journey, there's always someone that you feel maybe more accomplished than
Yep.
you. But also just realizing like we all started from a one point and are working towards another point, but my journey and path is very different than your journey and path and the listener's journey and path. Um, and I think it's also like highlighting your strengths. So, like reminding yourself and building confidence in yourself about the things that you do well and the accomplishments that you have achieved and the success that you have and the strengths that you have and the value that you bring to the table. Um, and sometimes that, means writing it down or putting it on your wall or looking at it or, psyching yourself up before you walk into an event. I listen to music. I get to events
Yes.
early and park in the parking lot and like have pump up music and
Yes.
like turn off my phone and like psych myself up so that I can go in there with confidence. But you're not alone, I guess is the point. Like I feel like everyone experiences that imposter syndrome at some point in their life, in their career. And I think when we get older, like at least for me in my 40s now, like I um care less about what other people think of me. And I stopped judging and comparing myself to others and have really just focused on my own journey. And so maybe that's just also like a coming of age thing.
Yeah. I love how you phrased it. It's your journey. Everyone's journey is unique. Um, and I think, I know for myself, I didn't share my journey enough, I feel like, to be able to let people know that, you're not alone. I know even just, um, even recently, I felt like I was being faced with a situation that I was only probably being faced with because I was a female. And it turns out another woman was feeling the same way. And it wasn't until we started to actually share and tell and, be open and almost vulnerable that we were able to, get to the other side of it with the person that we were experiencing with this. So I love how you say it's your journey, because I do think people also are open to hearing others' journeys and how they, kind of evolved from it to be able to help themselves too. Like it really helps to share your journey and where you've been.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that, yeah, talking about it more and sharing about it more. And, the problem with social media is you only see like the positive, like a tenth of
Yeah.
the real world and only the positives. You don't see the struggles and the challenges and the fear and the anxiety and all the things that, led up to that moment. You only
Yep.
see the positive end result. And so I think the sharing and the vulnerability, and maybe you can't be that way with everybody.
Yep.
So I think it's also like surrounding yourself with the right supportive women and friends and finding the right people that you can talk to about those challenges or those struggles, right? Kind of building your own personal board of advisors. that you go to for different things,
I
that,
love that.
that understand and share in that journey, right? Like, career women, business owners, moms, whatever, and have different personal board of advisors or friends that you can go to get the support or get the feedback or the advice that you need, at each stage or at each situation that you're facing.
I love that. That is amazing advice. And I think it's important to have those people that you can go to. I'm curious about your thoughts on this. Do you recommend having one person on your personal board of advisors who may challenge you from time to time? So instead of just supporting and always be like, yes, yes, you're right, but really challenge you when you come to them with a problem.
Yes, absolutely. Like the tough love and the direct
Yes.
talk and
Yeah.
the I don't want you to just sugarcoat it and tell me that everything's going to be okay and I'm doing it all right. I want you to point out my blind spots. And so Teresa is that person for me. She's also from Buffalo, Go Bills,
Hey, go
and
Bills.
and she's in one of my businesses and um she asks really thought-provoking questions of myself when I'm like feeling overwhelmed or I have my lack of boundaries or I didn't say no when I should have said no to another
Mhm.
thing that got dumped on my plate. And she's really good at like asking me those tough questions to see, if I am being true to myself.
Yep,
So yeah, I think it's important. And they don't only have to be women. So in my personal
yep.
board of advisors, which I did start as a practice when I moved into a leadership role 5 or 6 years ago, because I was in a role at a bigger company than I had ever experienced. Like I had male executives on that personal board of advisors that I would take once a month to a cup of coffee or a lunch and pick their brains because they had more leadership experience than I
Mhm.
did, but they also could give me the perspective of, for instance, the person that I was reporting to,
Yep.
of how do I deal with this question or this situation in my leadership role? And then, same in entrepreneurship. Like I probably need to reevaluate my personal board of advisors and make sure I have a successful entrepreneur that's maybe later stage startup that could give me some advice about some of the things that I have yet to experience.
Yep. I love that, and you're right. It's important to have just like we want diversity in the workforce, we ourselves need diversity on our personal boards. So I love how you've built that in. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have a question for you. What is next for Kate? What's on the horizon?
Ah, I I love speaking and coaching. I want to do more of that. And I would like to be a published author. And so I'm big on manifestation
Yep.
and vision boards. It's the time of year where you do your vision boarding for the
Yes.
next year. And so being a published author is like, I haven't started the book. I don't know the title. I haven't begun, but that's on my list of what I would like to accomplish.
Yeah.
Also, I plan to make more on-demand trainings available in 2024. So through my recruiters program, but also job seeker guides and courses and tips and workbooks and downloadable, digital products and services to reach a broader audience that will allow me to scale because I'm running out of time. So waiting
Yep.
to just book on my calendar one-on-one versus me pre-recording some information or sharing some information in a downloadable format to reach more people, I think is on the goal for me in 2024.
Yeah, I love that. I actually have an idea for you for the book perspective. I
Okay.
don't know if you've ever heard of book collaborations, and that's where you would be brought in to write a chapter on a specific topic. And I may have one coming up. um, but what I found because I was interested in it, but I wasn't sure really, how to go about and work with publishing, understand the marketing piece of it. So I am part of a collaboration effort. And it's just something I might suggest. It does get you published then, and it gives you kind of that viewpoint into what it's like to author.
I
And work
love that.
yeah. I
Please, let's offline talk about that and connect about that and see how
yes.
that could 'Cause yeah, that's the one thing I'm like, "I wanna be an author, but where do I start? What
Yes.
is my idea and unique, perspective?" Because I could talk for days, and I love doing podcasts and webinars and things like this, so thank you again for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today on your podcast. But definitely interested in a collab authoring of a book where I could just be a contributing author and not have to own the whole thing from
Yeah.
beginning to end by myself, so
Yeah, it's been a great experience, and we'll definitely connect offline on that, and it's just I think, like I said, it's a good way to dip your toe and to see
Oh.
what it's like. So, yeah, let's connect on that. I think I'm positive after this conversation that you're gonna meet all of your 2024 goals, and I really just appreciate I've loved our conversation here, Kate. And if you're open to it, I'd love to have you back to dig into more about networking and community and just helping to support and foster an equitable workforce, no matter what the vertical is somebody's working in. I'd love to have you
Well,
back.
I would love to come back. This has been so much fun. It was great, and I love the synergy and overlap of our mission of who we're trying to serve. So, best of luck to you and everyone else that's listening for 2024 and happy holiday season, right? We're
Happy
in the
holidays.
most wonderful time of the year.
We are. And within the show notes, we'll do links out to all of your businesses as well as any additional organizations. So we'll capture those in the show notes for you. And again, thank you so much for being here. It's been a great conversation. And Kate, there is a huge Bills game this weekend against the Cowboys. So
Go
gotta send
Bills.
Go Bill, send all of our love to the boys. But again, thank you so much for being here.
It was my pleasure. Thank you too, Emily.
All
Have a
right, have a
great
good
day.
day. Thanks.